Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Got a few things to cover today. It's not going to be a super packed show, but I found another 923 in the movie The Final Cut with Robin Williams. We're going to show you that. Also, a few headlines. We're going to talk about Trump's views on electric vehicles 3 years ago compared to today. And I found the spring, the cold water spring down at the edge of the Honey Milk Ranch. Another supernatural manifestation. I'm so blessed. God is good. A trickle of hope right down there, literally 10 yards from the edge of the property. And there's a cold water spring that wasn't there when I bought the property, because I remember going down there, looking, walking the property after I purchased it 5 years ago, and that was completely dry. So this is a brand new spring that has popped up, and all the credit and glory goes to the Most High for giving us trickles of hope when we're in our darkest hour. So thank you, Lord. All good things come from God, and always remember that. And sometimes they manifest in these little signs that help keep you afloat. He never gives us more than we can handle, even though it feels like that sometimes. There's always goodness just around the corner if we're just patient and wait. Now, this is a 923 sighting. Now, I know nothing happened on 923, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some kind of significance to it. Now, we didn't date set for that date because we've seen these 923s come and go for almost a decade now that we've been doing this channel. And I was like, okay, at a certain point, they're just going to toy with us. They're going to make us believe something is going to happen. And then it begins to discredit certain people who swear up and down that a rapture is going to happen or something else, right? So we don't date set on this channel, but this is a 923 sighting that I wasn't expecting to find in the movie The Final Cut. Now let me give you the premise of this movie. The premise is a brain implant, and it records every second of a person's life. I think there was a Black Mirror episode that kind of had the same theme. And this implant in the movie is called Zoe. And basically it records every second of a person's life so that when they die, the footage can be edited into a life movie to eulogize the person. Robin Williams plays an editor of these films, and he's one of the best. So he charges top dollar, and elite people basically hire him to whitewash their life. Now, this would obviously be the ultimate form of vanity, right? The desire to hold on to the things of this world. How vain would a person have to be to basically have an implant in their brain that then they could capture only the highlights and positive things in their life, so that everyone would remember them a certain way, right? So Robin Williams is editing one of these clients' films, and all of a sudden his past begins to catch up with him as he's editing one of his clients' footage here, who's captured at 9 years and 23 days and 19 hours. As a boy, he's brushing his teeth. Now, of course, there's the checkerboard tile in the background, but I didn't really see any other clues as to the significance of this. A boy in a t-shirt brushing his teeth. But this is what it is, right? Let's take a look at this. So he watches through these screens, and this is how he edits all the footage together, which to me sounds almost impossible. But he does have algorithms that can kind of search through and pick up the key moments. Now, this is an old film, so for them to be kind of showing us this kind of technology, these algorithms, is kind of interesting, isn't it? Because there really wasn't this kind of thing back when this film was made. I think this film's probably about 10 years old. But there you see Robin Williams in the background, and this is like his girlfriend kind of. And so I always wonder, right, where is all this headed? And here's my theory on this, and I'll explain it to you. I'm back in the chat now. What if, obviously they're collecting all of our data, right? Through our phones and our microphones, through our cameras. What if one day they say to us, hey, we've got everything recorded, your entire life, moments with your children that you didn't even know about, moments with your father, moments with your daughter. And they came to us and said, we want to give this back to you. What if that is the end goal and they sell it back to us in a bizarre final cut scenario, right? And I could imagine humanity. They would probably just be glued to the television, rewatching their entire life as it passes before their eyes, moments that they thought were lost forever. I wonder if that might be the thing. So, good morning, everybody. No, I don't live in France. I used to. Lived in France for a couple of years back in 2017, 2018. But what do you guys think about that scenario? Now, even though you and I really wouldn't want to watch that stuff, I mean, could you imagine the temptation to want to do that, though? Let's say you lost a child or something, and you thought those moments were gone forever, and now you can look through the lens of your cell phone from 5 years ago that you never knew was recording that moment, right? So this may be the temptation. This may be the temptation that they're looking for to finally offer to us, because we just keep seeing this scenario playing out over and over again, don't we? So we'll keep an eye on all that. Now, I wanted to, before we get into the Trump stuff, I wanted to show you guys the cold spring that I found on my property, and then we'll get into Trump's flip-flops on the electric vehicles next. Let's take a look at some of this footage here. All right, you guys. I don't know why I'm whispering. I'm such a weirdo. Anyway, wanted to give you an update, getting things cleaned up around here. And it's afternoon. It's about 4:30. And look at that pile of wood. That's a new pile of wood, obviously. Getting a lot done, you guys. It's going to be a while before I can use that wood, but it's looking good. Got all of that cleaned out. So pretty much I just have the big ones and all the small firewood, and I'm good to go. So I'm really pleased that I was able to get into this. I have it staged in different areas. Obviously there's the big stuff, there's the medium stuff, and then all the small stuff is kind of back there, as you can see. And I even separated the cedar out, because I guess cedar is supposed to be really great for burning. So, and of course, look at those beautiful pine trees back here. Really neat. Look at the size of these pine trees. Wow, that one's probably 12 or 18 feet tall. And I figured out that I got a bout of oak mites. They're called oak mites. And oak mites are not cool, but anytime you handle oak, you're going to get oak mites. They kind of hang out on the leaves, and they bite you and leave like a welt. They put venom in you, and they're microscopic. You can't see them. And so, you know, the thing that soothes them is peppermint oil, and I think peppermint oil on your skin actually makes them not want to actually climb on you either, even though you can't see them. But I wanted to show you this. That is I think that's a white pine, they call it. That's a pine tree, guys. I'm 6 foot. That thing's 3 times my height. That's about an 18-foot pine tree. That is cool. And there's a bunch of them back here. Bunch of pine trees. Here's one right here. What kind of pine tree is this, you guys? That is just beautiful. So, and it's mixed in with cedars, pines and cedars, and also my green giants, which don't really want to grow, but that's okay. Let them go at their own speed. It's like having children, right? So, very cool. Getting it done. Getting it done. Thanks Scott's for bringing this. And $1.89 a gallon versus $3.21 a gallon. Which one would you choose? So Scott's came and swapped out my 250 gallon tank. Way cheaper propane. Gosh, you know, there should be some controls on price gouging, because I mean, literally people are being price gouged. Now, the guy that showed up to swap out the propane tank said that AmeriGas had charged some customers as much as $7.25 a gallon. That's like 5 times or 6 times, well, 7 times, wait, 5 times the amount that they would charge other people. I can't even believe this still happens in America. You can't do that to people. The people that have propane are the ones who are maybe don't have as much money. They're out in the country, they're trying to survive. This might be their only source of fuel, and this is happening in America. Unbelievable. So I switched out. I'm like, I'm not gonna, you know, here at AmeriGas, it's supposed to be America, right? And they're price gouging people. Now, the interesting thing for any of you that have AmeriGas is that when you call the line to get help, the people on the line aren't even American. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm just saying I can't understand what they're saying. And then I call up Scott's, and there's American people on the line, and they help you, and they offer you a fair price. So here we are in backwards world. AmeriGas, that's not American, and then Scott's, which is American. So I don't know what's going on. I'm going with $1.89 a gallon. Thanks. All right, and here's the spring. Let's take a look. Hey, Cheryl or Charlie, if you guys want to come over and grab a spider plant, I've got so many here. Please, Cheryl, Charlie, come over and grab one of these spider plants. I don't know, most people don't like spider plants, but I thought, you know, give a couple of these away. I've got so many of them, and these things replicate out of control. All right, let's head down to the spring. I hope it's still running, you guys. I hope it is. It hasn't rained in a couple days, so if we do have running water coming out of it, then that means it's a natural spring. Let's go take a look. Every time I come out here, I find something new. Look at this hollow log. Whoa. What's living in there? Oh. Perfect home for a beast. Now this is getting close to my neighbor's property, so back on track here. All right, the spring is running. So here is the ditch. Here's the creek here. Gotta watch out for snakes and everything else, because they don't like this. They like this, actually, sorry. Oh boy. So let's take a look here. Whoa. All paranoid. So there's the creek. There's the creek. And let's walk down here. It's probably extremely slippery. And let's find the property line here. Okay. The spring looks like we're gonna have to get down in here. It's coming in. Oh, I just saw some activity. It's not a lot, you guys, but wow, is that a? I saw some fish. Let's put this off here. It's coming right in through there. Look at that. Let me zoom in on it. This is a spring, barely trickling. That is a cold water spring, and I think I see the source of it. Be careful, it's slippery. Coming right out through there. Let's see if we can. Oh, I forgot. I was going to bring some tools. Excavate. Not bring those. Now the property marker is past that fallen log there's actually a yellow marker on the other side of the creek, to the left of the creek. And that's where the marker is. So this is on my property, which is awesome. God is good, isn't he? I didn't know this when I came down here, but that is a spring. Now another way that you know this is a spring is that essentially this is a giant hill. So it goes up to the top of where the county road is and comes back down the other side. So there's no watershed really from this point, other than what's coming off of this side of the mountain, which is what you guys see when you look down the side of my property. That's the watershed, that's it. So this has to be coming from below, right? Let's dig some of this up. There it is right there. That's a spring. Wow. See right there, it's coming out right here. So if I were to dig like a basin right here, dig a basin, wow, that is flowing. Wow. If I were to dig a basin right here, the base of this, it would, look at that. Look at that. That is beautiful. God is good. See how it clears right up? That's another good sign. So I'll dig like a basin right here. I'll bring some tools down. And you're supposed to fill it with some kind of rock to filter it. And you pipe it right out. And there's the cold water spring. And it's ice cold, you guys. It's ice cold. Actually, probably don't even need to. I could just dig this out, clear this out. And that would be in my spring right there. Put a pipe in there. Now, obviously, if it's lower like that, it's in this watershed, so wildlife could like get in and contaminate it. So one incentive to build kind of like a little dam area up here is that you'd have less possibility of contamination, I suppose. I don't know. Probably people would fence off this area or something. I don't know. But remember, this larger section here is part of the creek. So anything upstream could contaminate it. So you almost want to make the spring back here where it's feeding into the creek. And you probably have less chance of contamination. I don't know. But, you know, it's got to go up 185 yards, 2 football fields to the top of my property. But I could definitely use this to, you know, water the lawn and stuff like that, irrigation. Just dig that out right there. In the summer, it could be like, you know, somewhere to come and cool off. That's just amazing. The spring, out of nowhere. Gosh, there's even like a cave right there. And I built this little step here to help me get up out of the creek. Maybe start clearing some of this stuff that's already dead. Just to make way. Make another step. There we go. Little steps. Get out, in and out. Definitely some kind of den action going on in here. Wow. Let's take a look. Den action. Who knows what's living in there? Who knows? Probably an armadillo. Sorry for the heavy breathing, but I'm about halfway up the hill. So I talked to a plumber, because that was the first thing I thought. And he put together some numbers. He said it's just probably not cost effective. The materials alone, just the pipe alone is like $2,000 for 200 yards of pipe. And that's not to mention all, you know, the pump, the generator, everything you'd need. So I kind of wrote that off. I think he came up with a total number of like $10,000 or $15,000, and I'm just like, it's just not worth it. So either I'm just going to leave it alone and leave it there as like a backup in case things hit the fan. There's always water, you know. Or I've got another idea. I've thought about maybe taking like a 50-gallon drum barrel, lay it on its side, and like build a train car around it. And then I can like excavate around the spring and stick that 50-gallon barrel train car underneath it. And when it fills with water, of course, it will just overflow. But then I could stick that whole thing on like a track, you know, like a train track, but not a real train track, obviously, with huge railroad ties, but like something you see at like a theme park, right? Like a kiddie train track or something. And then I can run that up the mountain and then stick the car on the track and then just winch it up the mountain at the top of the hill. So the winch would be pulling the little car up. And so I'd get 50 gallons at a time with the winch idea. And that's a project I could probably do myself, which would be fun to kind of do. But to get it up this 185 yards, and it's also a 100-foot increase in elevation, that's probably a way that you could do it in an emergency situation, right? So that's my idea in terms of how I might want to move forward on the spring, or I'll probably just leave it alone, you know. Now I know why the wildlife is over here, because they've got a water source and they've got, you know, white oak acorns all around. So those are the two things that animals need. They need a food source and they need a water source. So now I know why there's turkey and deer and all kinds of other stuff running through. Now, I am about a mile from the lake, but, you know, obviously the lake has a food source there, but these animals spread out and they roam around, don't they? So they go from water source to water source. So it all starts to make sense, doesn't it? Now, this part I captured showing you the tree fall. Look at all this tree fall here. There's like 50 trees that have fallen over during the duration of this forest, however long it's been around. This is why I had to clear the trees. It's not worth your life. It's not worth the destruction of your property. You have to clear trees around your house. And now, obviously, I left all these other trees alone. I don't need to take all these trees down, but the ones around your house, you do have to. I could probably done it in one go, but, you know, I don't want to overdo it. That hummingbird, very curious. She must have a nest. Anyway, I stopped here because I wanted to show you guys the pure force of these trees. See all those trees laying down? That's because it's very rocky soil, and the roots cannot expand very far. So these big red oak trees just fall over. They fall over, and you can see I can count 20 of them in a 1 acre parcel here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, the one off in the distance. And this is in a 1 acre parcel here. Now that's on my neighbor's property, but if you were to allow these trees to sit next to your house and this falls over, it's literally like dropping a semi-truck on top of your house. It's not going to survive. And the tree guys confirmed this for me. He said, I don't know why people don't clear trees off their property around their house. But, you know, it's all political. Way back when, the Democrats and liberals were really adamant about not killing a tree. Well, now they're saying we have too many trees, according to Bill Gates. So never go with politics. Always go with a moral high ground, or a moral imperative. A spiritual moral imperative. Because if it's not linked into the spiritual, then it's not really moral, is it? Because God created all this. And that's why we're going to talk about the flip-flopping on the electric vehicles with Trump. You know, of course, now everyone hates that the gas prices are so high and they're trying to force us into electric vehicles, but the time to make that stand was during his presidency. But we'll look at a video of what he said during his presidency about electric vehicles and Elon Musk and how great he was. And we need to take care of him. And now all of a sudden, it's not so great. So, alright guys, that's it for the Honey Milk Ranch. Let's get into some of these headlines. Alright, let me check in with you guys and then we'll get into To EV or not to EV? That is the question. And of course, EVs are electric vehicles. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Now, why am I making a joke about this Shakespearean quote? Well, it's because Trump was singing a different tune 3 years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, what he's saying about EVs now is correct. Nobody should be forced into an electric vehicle, and our economy should not be forced to electric technology based on this climate change thing, right? There's still too many people that have differing opinions about this, even though they tell us this is the scientific consensus, right? Well, a lot of people are like, hey, well, I mean, what portion? Okay, think of it this way. Politically, even just politically, if half the people in America who are, Republicans or conservative don't agree with the climate agenda, then how can you force them to be into, an electric economy based on the climate agenda? You really can't do that, can you? Let's take a look at Trump's words from 3 years ago. Now, obviously, they're calling him President Trump here, so he was president during this time. This was probably at the very end of his presidency. So he had plenty of time to see the trend of electric vehicles being forced upon America, and he must have anticipated that the Democrats would weaponize electric technology, right? These people all know what's going on, you guys. They all know. Let's take a look at this and hear what he had to say 3 years ago when asked directly about Elon Musk.
Tesla's now worth more than GM and Ford. Do you have comments on Elon Musk?
Well, you have to give him credit. I spoke to him very recently, and he's also...
Now, I'm going to pause this intermittently because obviously copyright and stuff. So he said he spoke to Elon Musk not long ago, so they were on speaking terms. Now, remember, after this, Trump was given favor on Twitter. Twitter X, Elon Musk owns, of course. And so these guys know each other. They're probably friends, and they vouch for each other.
Also doing the rockets. He likes rockets, and he does good at rockets too, by the way. I never saw where the engines come down with no wings.
So he's talking about Elon Musk technology, this new technology, and he actually compares him to Edison, which of course was one of the Electric Kingdom founders or forefathers, right?
There's no anything, and they're landing. I said, I've never seen that before. And I was worried about him because he's one of our great geniuses, and we have to protect our genius.
So he's worried about Elon Musk. He said we have to protect our geniuses. So he's got skin in the game with Elon Musk.
We have to protect Thomas Edison, and we have to protect all of these people that came up with originally the light bulb and the
electricity. Are you hearing his words? He's basically saying the same thing Biden's saying, but just a different way. He's appealing to the inventor of electricity. But you can see that this is, and think about this on an esoteric level: Apollo, lightning bolts, electricity, right? And of course, Tesla, Nikola Tesla, and electrical engineers, his uncle. It's not a secret that Trump is about electromagnetic technology and electronics.
Wheel and all of these things, and he's one of our very smart people, and we want to cherish those people. That's very important. But he's done a very good job. Shocking how well, how it's come so fast. I mean, you go back.
Well, reason why you can kind of read between the lines here. Oh, it's shocking. It's actually not so shocking. Elon Musk was obviously subsidized by the American government to fast track the electric car technology, the electric kingdom. He was obviously been given a foot in the door. There's no way he would have succeeded had the American government not been behind this. And now on the back end of it, we're seeing exactly why he was given that foot in the door and subsidized to succeed. It's because they just hand the ball off to Biden, and then Biden gets the job done in terms of basically setting these benchmarks and goals for the future of our forced electric technology.
A year, and they were talking about the end of the company, and now all of a sudden they're talking about these great things. He's going to be building a very big plant in the United States. He has to.
Nowhere in this response does he show any concern about being forced onto electric vehicles. There's no concern whatsoever.
Because we help him, so he has to help us.
So he admits that we subsidize and help Elon Musk. So do you see what's going on here? So there you saw the silent agenda behind this whole thing. Now, what is he saying now? Well, completely different story. As Trump's latest villain is electric vehicles. And let's listen to these two talking heads.
What about the strikes? And we understand the former President Trump has also been making some selective visits. What do you know about that so far?
Well, he said that his plan is, instead of participating in the next Republican debate, which I think is on September 27th, he's going to go somewhere in the upper Midwest and address striking auto workers. Now, this is interesting because the UAW, United Auto Workers Union, did not endorse Trump in 2020. The union endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, and Trump, of course, is pissed off about that. So the main thing he's been saying about the strike is that the UAW leaders suck and they're selling out the workers. So very interesting to see what kind of message Trump is going to have for the union workers. He's not really taking their side so much against the automakers that they are striking. He's taking the auto workers' side against their own union leaders, who are the ones representing them in these strikes. So if that's what comes off, I mean, that's a fairly muddled message from Trump. I'm not sure that's going to do him any good. But look, I mean, we all know he's looking for ways to get some attention without attending the GOP debates. So I wonder if the storyline is going to emerge that Trump is kind of using the auto workers just as an attention-getting ploy for himself.
Now, let's read this article here. Trump's latest villain, electric vehicles. Because those guys really didn't give us any information, did they? Now, of course, this article is going to be slanted against Trump, but try to read between the lines here and actually listen to what Trump is saying about electric vehicles. That's all we're really trying to take away from this. Because obviously this article is going to bash Trump. We're not getting into bashing. We're getting into facts here and the flip-flopping. Trump is wading into the auto workers' strike by claiming that EVs threaten blue-collar livelihoods. Yes, we already knew that. But where was this message 3 years ago when he was president? That's a clear attack on President Biden, who wants to slash carbon emissions by boosting EVs to 50% of new car sales by 2030, from about 7% today. So right now it's 7% electric vehicles by 2030, but which he won't be around by then, obviously. He'll be in the grave. But he's setting this benchmark of 50% of car sales. This is the electric kingdom, you guys. Let's keep reading here. Electric vehicles don't burn fossil fuels and have no tailpipe emissions. So they help address global warming as long as electricity that powers them is relatively clean. So obviously this is not clean. We talked about the giant lithium mine and how lithium is processed with sulfuric acid, which is essentially a corrosive, one of the most corrosive agents ever to be freaking on the earth. And it produces 5,400 tons of sulfuric acid per day. Where does all that go? Trump has begun calling Biden's plan a ridiculous all-electric car hoax. This is exactly what we've been saying for the past 5 years, haven't we? And now Trump seems to be aligning with our viewpoint on this, which we agree with. But the question is, where was this message before? He's politicizing this, isn't he? He even says here that all these cars are going to be made in China. We know that. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about even the lithium mine found in Nevada in a volcano. The mining company is owned by China. Right? So, this is how the silent agenda works. Each side makes promises that they know they're not going to keep, so they can keep passing the baton back and forth across the aisle. All the while, the main silent agenda keeps inching forward. That's how this works, and I hope people are beginning to understand this, that politicians lie on purpose. Now, they might meet some of the promises that they've made, but only if it advances the rest of the agenda. So sometimes they'll concede certain things to make you think things are going a certain direction, like almost like the border wall to nowhere, right? That's essentially what it was. It enriched the contractors who built it, but the border wall isn't going to be what keeps people out. Obviously, it has not kept people out, right? I mean, a lot of it was completed under the Trump presidency, but yet we're still getting migrants coming across the border. So did it really fix anything? Now, people can argue, well, he didn't have the chance to get it done. Really? And we can just keep making excuses for these people. We can say, oh, well, it's because they were opposed by the Democrats. That's why he couldn't complete it. We can keep making excuses, but at the end of the day, there's a silent agenda marching forward, and that is the imprisonment of Americans under a technocracy, as well as an electric kingdom where everything is completely controlled, and an economic tyranny as well with blockchain technology. This is what's inching forward, and it will make it very difficult for you to have any privacy whatsoever. So, Trump is obviously appealing to the right here. It's an EV hoax. It is. They're making a bunch of money, and they're basically limiting your ability to travel. And he's right. But is electing him going to fix this when he's already had a completely different viewpoint as recently as 3 years ago? Absolutely not. Now, he goes on and on about China here. But at the end of the day, as we talked about before, during the pandemic, what was happening? Well, China was being enriched, wasn't it? Because Walmart was one of the only places that was allowed to stay open. And of course, Amazon sales just went through the roof because people were ordering online because they couldn't go out. Both of those companies, 80% of their products are Chinese. So China was becoming rich in plain sight. And very few people can put all this together in your mind because you're being told something different. You're being told China's evil, China this, China that. But then we see the numbers, and China got rich during the pandemic off of us and our government and the choices that they made to push certain corporations forward and make them rich. And all you have to do is go back and look at the stock price of Amazon and Walmart during the pandemic, and they both almost doubled. So there's your proof right there. All right. Now, what else is going on? Well, apparently, California now says you can't drive your classic car in certain areas. Now, I don't own a classic car, but what right does a government tell you where you can and can't drive your car? Now, this, believe it or not, is actually happening in other countries. For those of you that live in England, you know that certain vehicles are not allowed in certain parts of London. You're not allowed to drive in there because of quote-unquote global warming and emissions standards. Well, California is now going the way of Europe. The state of California is looking seriously at instituting or allowing local governments to institute zero-emission zones. In preparation for such a move, California Air Resources Board reportedly is gathering information about classic cars and how their owners use them. We knew something like this was coming to the U.S., and California would likely be the first, but this is still concerning. Now, this is why I don't give any government official any information when they come and ask me questions. I remember I tell you guys the story of when I'd go fishing, and Fish and Game would come up, and or some other weird government official doing some kind of survey. I'm like, number one, how did you find me out here? Number two, that's weird that you're going around asking people questions about what kind of fish you caught and how often you fish. I got some weird survey in an email about asking me about being a black hunter. It was crazy. The questions were stuff like, do you feel a sense of pride as a black hunter? I'm like, who makes these surveys? I mean, can you imagine if someone sent you a survey and asked you what kind of pride you had as being a white hunter. Think about how racist that would be. But it's okay to ask me about being a black hunter. And first of all, second of all, how did they even know I was black? That's like a lot of information to have on somebody. And now I'm getting a survey asking me about being a black hunter. And the questions were just weird. They were just bizarre. And so I got through part of the survey just to see the questions, but I never submitted it, of course, because like I said, I don't give these people any information about myself because all it's done is used against you. Now, in the example that I gave about fishing up in Morro Bay, they actually did use that information against fishermen, and they set up this marine zone, a marine preservation or conservation zone, all up and down the coast of California, to where you can't even fish there anymore because it's protected. And this is how they use the information, right? They take these polls, and I wouldn't suggest anybody talk to these people about anything because all it's going to do is work against you. You might think that your answers are going to matter, but they'll just use the data how they want to use the data, aren't they? So this is what's going on now. They're now establishing these carbon-free zones to where you can't drive your gas guzzler through there. And they're going to push this. This will probably be the normal for any 15-minute city. Once California has established these zones, they'll use California as like a copycat, and they'll institute this in all the 15-minute cities. So I'll put links to all this, of course, for you guys. I want to finish off today's show with something crazy. The woman that was eaten by a 14-foot alligator. Guess what her name is? Pac-Man. Are you kidding me? Well, it's Peckham, but it sounds like Pac-Man. 41-year-old woman eaten by an alligator after being dragged around by the 14-foot beast into a canal in Friday in Largo, Clearwater. Now, they go on to explain here that essentially she was walking around out in the dark. Obviously something you don't want to do in Florida. I wonder if this is her here. No, this is Brianna Davis, has said her mother was not taunting an alligator before it attacked and ate her, claiming instead that she had been walking back to her homeless camp in the dark. So this woman was homeless. Let's look at some of these pictures here. This is just crazy. This poor lady. So Sabrina Peckham, pictured with her daughter, Brianna Doris. So this is the lady here that got drug off from the homeless camp. Wow. So may this woman rest in peace. What a sad story. I think this is the alligator here. Several local residents spotted the gruesome sight of Peckham's death on Friday afternoon, and as the alligator dragged its prey away and began to record the scene while alerting the Largo Fire Department. Look at the size of this gator. Wow. Well, that is just crazy. That poor lady. So, the lesson is, do not walk around in the dark in Florida. I mean, these creatures are very fast. They'll run up on you, especially if they're hungry. So unbelievable. Let's go into the chat. What are you guys up to today? Good morning. Now, originally we thought there might have been some foul play, but it sounds like the daughter had a logical explanation as to how this happened. So no foul play, it appears. Makes you wonder if she was fed to the alligator. That's what I thought in the beginning, Kimberly, but it sounds like her daughter said that she was walking back. Now, it doesn't mean someone could have mugged her or something and then fed her to the alligators. That could have been the case. We don't know, right? We really don't know. But, it's shocking. A lot of Florida's has alligators in it, and they're everywhere. There are millions and millions of alligators. It's not like there's just one area where there's some alligators. It's not like, like you go to California and there's only certain parts of California that have some of this larger wildlife. The rest of it's kind of, they've moved out of those areas. No, in California, pretty much assume that every body of water has an alligator in it. I remember being told that years and years ago when I went to Florida. I was like, That's crazy. Literally every body of water probably has an alligator in it. That's a lot of alligators, you guys. All right. Good morning. Can't believe her name was Pac-Man. Yeah, it's a swamp. Absolutely. Now, other states have gators too, just not as many. Believe it or not, there's a portion of Arkansas, the very, very southern corner of Arkansas, has alligators in it. A lot of people don't know that, but I looked it up, and there's videos on YouTube of people catching alligators in Arkansas. I think it's private land. It's all been reduced down to private land. They do have an alligator season here in Arkansas. You can go back and catch them. They're not nearly as big as the ones down in Florida, but that is just crazy. Georgia has alligators. I think Mississippi, pretty much all the southern states have them to a certain degree. All right. Okay, Yava says, why should you never play poker with an alligator? Okay, let's hear the punchline to that joke. Mississippi has huge gators. Louisiana too. Jacksonville, Louisiana. Because you will lose every hand. It's pretty good, Yabba Dabba. Pretty good joke there. All right. Clever, clever. Jamie says, I'd rather deal with bears and wolves in Kentucky than a gator. Sister Becky says I should put a water pump in. Yeah, I talked to the plumber about that. He's like, do you have power down there? I'm like, no. I go, I guess I could run a 200-yard extension cord. He goes, no, that's not going to work. You need power down there. So I don't know. I mean, if I could get a power cord down there and get a pump down there, and that would be the easiest method to do it, and just pump it out. It's got a kind of a natural pool down there. I could just clear out a little bit more rocks. I could probably get a depth of at least a foot deep from what I could see, and stick a pipe down there and a pump, but I would need to get power down there, and that would be the problem. I don't know how long a power cord can be, and maybe you'd need a much beefier power cord of some kind to run it down there. And of course, you'd run the power cord through some kind of conduit, some kind of protected pipe, and I'd probably just leave it right on top of the ground. I'm not going to dig it, put it in the ground, because it's all rocks down there. It's pretty impossible to do. Yeah, Colleen says power from your spring. Yeah, interestingly, Mike the plumber mentioned that. He's like, hey, you could put a water wheel down there. The problem is there's not enough flow. As you saw, it's probably a gallon a minute, I want to say. A gallon every 2 minutes, maybe. Probably a gallon a minute is what that spring was. And it might flow a little faster certain times of the year, but it's just not enough to push a water wheel. I mean, if you made some kind of spillway, that might do it as well. Solar, some people mentioned solar. There's not enough sun down there. I'd have to have, it's way down in a ditch with a canopy of trees over the top. So there's no sun that gets down there. And it's on the wrong slope. You know, when you learn all these things when you're in the hills, you're thinking about solar. You learn about slopes, north and south facing slopes. And in order to capture sun, you have to be on the right slope. Blake says put a dam. There's kind of a natural dam there. That's why it's kind of pooling up there. So that's a good question. Yeah, I barely have enough to run a pinwheel, which wouldn't create enough power. But great suggestions, and thank you. Fish pond with an overflow. Yeah. So I'll get down there at some point and do some more excavating, which will be fun. And I'll bring you guys down there. I got a funny story to tell you. So I went over to Mike's last night, and we had some deer meat for dinner. And he made some great gravy and potatoes. I cut up some potatoes, and we had a fun time over there. And Mike's funny because, this dude is raw. I mean, he's a lumberjack, he's a mechanic, he's everything. All the stuff my dad never taught me how to do, because my dad was an alcoholic. But Mike's awesome because he shows me all the things I never got to learn how to do. Hunting. Now I do know how to fish. My dad did teach me that. But I was telling him, I'm like, at some point I'm going to need to purchase a log splitter. And I asked him if he had any suggestions because I've got all this wood, but no way to split it. And he goes, you don't need a damn log splitter. He goes, have you heard of a mall? And I go, yeah, you mean like go to the mall to buy clothes? No, not a mall to buy clothes. He goes, a mall. So how many of you know what a mall is? Let's see who gets the answer. Oh boy. One of you knows what a mall is. Let's see. We're not talking about the shopping mall. I'm shocked no one got the answer yet. Maybe the chat's backed up. Get mall, Daryl's. There you go. Joy got it. Wow, Joy got it. Yeah, it's a wedge, a maul. It's a tool. Yes, it's a splitting maul. Jamie got it. So here's our true homesteaders out here. So yes, it's a heavy axe. He goes, it's a maul. I go, a maul? He goes, come on. So we hopped in the side by side, and we went down to the wood. What do they call it? The wood lot. And there's all these rounds. And he's like, you never used a maul before? And I'm like, no, Mike. I go, show me what's going on. I want to try it. He goes, you don't need no darn wood splitter. I said, all right, what is this about? We grab the maul out of the back. We go down to the wood pile, and there goes Mike, and he's getting on this round. They call them a round. It's basically a round is an 18-inch long piece of tree trunk, and it's round. That's why they call it a round. And he goes, watch this. And he takes this maul, which is a giant axe, essentially, and he takes a swing at it. Swing one, swing two, swing three. And he's like, you don't need no darn punching bag neither. I go, what? I'm all messed up. He's like, you don't need no punching bag. He goes, do this all day. You'll get in great shape. I was like, all right. So he took this axe and he split this thing in half. I was like, whoa, that is cool. Now you see this stuff on movies like Rocky and all this. You see people in like Commando, you see these guys splitting these logs, and it looks super hard. And I was like, maybe it's not so hard. So I start going for it, and I'm like splitting logs. It's the first time in my life I'd ever done anything like this. And it was like, there was something gratifying about it. Like, wow, I can take a piece of metal and make firewood out of a tree. And yeah, it was hard, but it wasn't like backbreaking. It's all about the swing. He's like, it's all about the swing. Now, Mike's, he's not a large man, but yet it's all about leverage and swing. And we were just splitting these logs. I was like, yes. Then we went in and had some biscuits and gravy and deer meat. And then I headed on home. But yeah, if you ever want to get some good exercise, go split some logs. Go buy a maul and split some logs. Now I'll get some footage of that because I ordered them all on Amazon. So I'll get that over here. I'll put on my head camera, and we'll just split logs together for a few minutes or as long as I last. And I'll show you guys exactly how it's done. But it's a life tool that you need to know about when things hit the fan. You need to know that you can go cut down a tree and cut up some wood without electricity and burn it in a fire to keep warm in the winter. So look at Mama Sap, 5'2", 110 pounds. I chop wood. That's awesome. Pray for Peace does it all day. So a lot of you already chop your own wood. Yeah, and here I was looking at wood splitters. I'm like, you don't need a wood splitter. I mean, yeah, for the giant logs, you might want to have one, but. And then he took me over to this big log that was about 3 feet from side to side, 3 feet diameter. And he goes, if you keep working on that piece of wood, you could split that too. And I'm like, really? That thing's massive. And he's like, yep, you could actually split that with this maul. I was like, wow, this is hardcore. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to split my own wood. And like I said, I'll get some footage of that for you guys as soon as my maul shows up. And I've got to fill this bag with some sand, this punching bag. I'm like, hey, where can I buy some sand? And he goes, you don't need to buy no dang sand. He goes, go down to the river. That's like, awesome. I'm getting all the life hacks from Mike over here. So, yeah, he told me a place to go to get some sand. He goes, get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, stick it in the back of your truck, and drive down to the river. There's sand everywhere. You don't need to buy no darn sand. I said, all right, I'll do that too. So, anyway, I love you guys. Not sure what we're going to do tomorrow, but we'll be back on here because it's just fun hanging out with you guys. You guys have a great rest of your day. Much love. Take care, everybody.